In the last video, you learned how to determine the prime factorization of a number. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the prime factorization to determine the greatest common factor between numbers. So first of all, what is the greatest common factor? So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just the largest factor between the numbers that you're looking at. To start, we're just going to do what we did in the last video. So we're going to find the prime factorizations of each of 138 and 198. So 2 times 69 gives us 138. 2 is prime, so we can't take that any further. But 3 times 23 is equal to 69, and both 3 and 23 are now prime, so we can't take this one any further either. $198, we have that 2 times 99. And 3 times 33 gives us 99. And 33 breaks up into 3 times 11. These will be a lot easier if you know your multiplication facts and some divisibility rules. So as we learned in the last video, we can write these two numbers as a product of their prime factors when we're all finished. So that's what I've done here on the right. We've got 138 is equal to 2 times 3 times 23, and we have 198 is equal to 2 times 3 squared multiplied by 11. So now here is where we can determine the greatest common factor, and I'm actually going to just rewrite this 198 just slightly just to make it a little easier for us. So instead of the 3 squared, I'm just going to break up the 3 into two separate ones. And in order to determine the greatest common factor, we just take what's in common in each of these two products. So we have a 2 that's in common, and we also have 1 3 that's in common. Then we just multiply the numbers that are in common. So that gives us 2 times 3, and our greatest common factor is equal to 6. Next up, we have determined the least common multiple of 18, 20, and 30. Again, we can use prime factorization to determine what this is going to be. Just to, again, make sure you understand, what is a least common multiple? Well, what is a multiple? So a multiple of a number, so for example 20, the multiples of 20 would just be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So technically you could find this by just listing all the factors until you came across the smallest one that was the same in each of these three instances. But we don't want to do it that way. We want to find a little bit more of an efficient way to do it. So I'm going to show you prime factorization. So just to show you, again, this is an example of the multiples of these numbers. and we're looking for the smallest one that's in common with all three. So 18 breaks up into 9 times 2, 3 times 3. So I'm just going to go through this. You should be pretty comfortable with doing this now. If you're not, you can pause the video and try it on your own. So there are our prime factorizations of 18, 20, and 30. So now what do we do? How can we find the least common multiple? So it's a little bit different than what we did for the greatest common factor. If you remember the greatest common factor, we found out what was in common with all three. That's not what we do here. So for this one, we want to look at the unique prime factors. And it doesn't matter which number they come from. We need to take into account each unique prime factor. So the first one we see, we have a 2, right? And the 2 is in all of them. It doesn't matter that it's in all of them. But we need the one that occurs most frequently. So we look at the 20. The 20 has a 2 squared. So we need to take the prime factor with the highest exponent for that. So we take the 2 squared. Okay, and then we look for the next unique factor, and we can see that we have a 3. So there's a 3 in the last one, and there's also a 3 in the first one. But again, we want to take the one that has the most of that prime factor. So for 18, there was 2 of them, so we take the 3 squared. And then finally, our last unique prime factor is 5, and it doesn't matter which one we take because they're both just have an exponent of 1. And now we just multiply those together, so 2 squared is equal to 4, 3 squared is equal to 9, and then 5 doesn't change. And when we multiply those together, we get 180. So our least common multiple between 18, 20, and 30 is 180.